all seen It's Gone Viral. This is a wonderful story. It's unfortunate that somebody, and many of us that we know people who are going through cancer. And so there was a man who's going through that. And then 450 students at a faculty at a high school in the Nashville area, they decided to go to his home and to sing to him. Take a look at this.
You are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord.
Well, you can see how moved he was, how moved all of us are by that. And we did get the chance to catch up with Mr. Ellis. Here's what he had to say about the moment.
It overwhelmed me that God would fill that many students with that much love. In that moment, I felt like I was not alone.
Not alone.
You are not really alone. Loved. And we're joined now by the headmaster at Christ Presbyterian Academy in Nashville, also Nate Morrow, his name is, and teacher's daughter, Betsy Ellis, who's joining us right now. And Nate, just tell us how this whole idea came about.
Well, Ben is a man who loves like Jesus loves, first of all. He loves lavishly, he loves intentionally, and he has taught us all how to love better. And so through this fight, worship has been a place of peace for him. It's been a place he's found joy in worshiping and praising in community. And so last week, we got some hard news about his treatment options, and our high school principal, Parker Altman, called me last Wednesday morning and said, Nate, I want to take the high school to Ben's house, and I want to go worship with him, and I want to do it now. Can we do that? And I simply said, let's go. And it was a moment where we got to all be a part of Love in Action that was probably one of the greatest lessons that I know and I think all of us will have ever learned, and it didn't happen in the classroom that day.
And sir, you know full well that oftentimes those in high school are accused of only thinking about themselves, but this was so selfless, and that had to, I know, meant so much to Mr. Ellis and to others there to see them not think of themselves, but of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that was just a reflection back to Ben, what he's meant to us. I mean, he is a guy who in the hallway, in the classroom, everywhere he goes, he pursues people and never thinks of himself. And I think that was just a way that we could love him back.
Betsy, how was it for you to see all your friends and classmates behind you right there serenade your dad?
It was so special, and it was amazing because we didn't necessarily serenade him, we got to worship with him, and especially because of how important worship has been for my dad and my family through this whole journey. It was just so amazing and special to get to worship with him again, and I knew that I had 450 plus people who are walking beside me and who love me, and it was just a beautiful picture of the body of Christ for me.
And Betsy, do your friends behind you, did they have a message for your dad this morning?
Yes.
We do. Students.
I love you, Dad.
Give your father our love. Blessings to you all. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ben Ellis was a remarkable man who was not famous on earth, but I can assure you that his name will be known in heaven. Ben was my friend, and I miss Ben. Ben passed away just a little over a year ago. And I want to give you a little bit more background on this video, because this video right now has been seen by over 100 million people. Nate Morrow, the man who was there, has been contacted by people all over the world, Latin America, Asia, Europe, a lot of calls from Germany, people wanting to know more. What motivated these people and what motivated this man? So this has been viral for over a year now and continues to still get inquiries. But what I want you to know about that video is what you just saw there came within 3 minutes of not occurring at all. It was something planned for, but with 3 minutes to go, it almost didn't happen. And the only thing that made that happen from a natural perspective, The only reason you got to see it today was because for the last 16 years, there's been a group of people who have committed themselves to a culture and to fighting for that culture and living that culture and dreaming that culture, such that when this opportunity came up very suddenly, they were able to seize the opportunity, they were able to perform flawlessly, and you were able to see what you've seen. Now 100 million people have heard about this man's love for worship and Jesus and everything else. We don't know all the effects of it, but it's remarkable. So, how did this come about? A couple of things that you don't know about this video. When the principal said that he went to the headmaster and said, hey, we got to do this, what had happened is 3 different people, unrelated, had come to him and said, we had a dream. And we had a dream that we were all going to Ben Ellis's house, just stand in his front yard in his driveway and worship with him. Don't know what that means, but that's the dream. So after the 3rd person came to him, they did get the news of his treatment options and realized that Ben would not be able to go worship anymore. And what you need to know is that during this whole time, when Ben was sick, Ben loved to worship. And by the way, Shane and Shane, you guys, that was amazing. Thank you so much for using your gifts and issuing us into the presence. Ben Ellis most assuredly would have liked to have been here this morning to hear that, I can promise you. But Ben, even when he was really sick, would go to the school, would do chapels, and would help lead worship, even when he was really sick. This was the first time when he couldn't go. So what happened was they got everyone there. I mean, buses, cars, every way you can imagine to get all these kids there, and did it immediately without concern for liability or whatever else that we have to deal with these days, and got over there. Somebody, a good friend of ours, stood behind and shot that iPhone video that you saw. Then posted it to some friends and some family people, and they posted it, and they posted it, and then it ended up going sent to Tim McGraw, the country singer, who's a friend of a lot of people there. Well, he posted it on his. He's got a few people who follow him, and then it went berserk. So this happened on the 7th. On the 12th, Good Morning America found out about it and said, we've got to do a live shot of this. This has to happen. Okay, this is where I and my company come into the scene. I run a company called Enable Resource Group, and essentially what we do is we're an IT service provider. So we outsource the operation of networks and IT departments, primarily for churches, ministries, nonprofits, and schools. Now, one of the schools that's a client of ours is Christ Presbyterian Academy, where Ben Ellis worked. He was a friend of mine, but he's also a client. And so what happened to set this whole thing up is that at 5:30 on the 12th, okay, the video of him singing was on the 7th. On the 12th, we get a call after work. 2 of our guys had already gone home who were involved in the story, and they said, hey, Good Morning America wants to do a national event tomorrow to all 425 affiliates. They're sending a crew over. You need to help them. And our guys were like, well, okay, great. What do we need to do? And they said, we don't know, just help them. So this is at 5:30. So I knew nothing about this. The rest of our senior management team knew nothing about this. It's our 2 technology guys that were assigned to the school. So the one started to look into the issue and started thinking, wow, 425 affiliates, national broadcast, I need help. So he immediately called a senior engineer that works with us, who was at home eating dinner with his family, and said, we got a problem. And he said, what is it? And he said, I'm not really sure, but we've got to get this done. So they worked till 9:30 that night. They went on remotely to the network, figured out that what we were going to try to do wouldn't work, so they had to configure a whole nother branch off the network, shut a couple of other things down, tested it, it worked. So they got done about 9:30, 10 o'clock. They were back at the school at 4:30 the next morning. I still don't know anything about it. Our management team doesn't know anything about it. Let me tell you how I found out about it. I'm in the kitchen, and I'm reading my Bible, and I'm there having coffee, which is what I do. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning, and my 18-year-old son comes downstairs, sleepy, into the kitchen, and I said, what in the world are you doing up at 5? He has not seen 5 since he was nursing, I don't think, right? So he said, we have to go to the school today. They're having this thing for Mr. Ellis, and it's on TV. I thought, probably ought to know something about that, but I didn't. So I said, okay. Well, they get there at 4:30. Good Morning America shows up, and our guys are like, hey, we've configured this, we've got this going, we got wireless, we got a cable, we got all your set, and do you need help? And they said, no, we're good. We're good. We got this. We got all of our own stuff, and we're fine. So our guys were, okay. And they kind of looked at each other and thought, well, what if they're not good? That wouldn't be good. So they backed off and let them do their thing and showed them around. In the meantime, they sort of huddled and said, I don't feel good about this. Let's get a backup plan in place. So they did. They went and configured a cable, went in the server room, called another guy, told him which port. He remotely fixed it and got it ready to go. They got a cable and got all set, and then came back down and said, how's it going, guys? And they said, well, not that good. And they called New York, and New York called back to our guys and said, can you do something better? And we said, sure. So we put them on the wireless, and it worked immediately. They're up, they're going, it's good, the speed's much better. New York does a test. We're now within 30 minutes of going live. So they've been doing this all morning with a gym with about as many people in it as here, and they're watching them work. And, sweat starting, and so within 30 minutes, and they said, okay, and so New York does a test, and they go, no, it's not working. It's working, but it's not full HD quality. We need more. Can you do something better? And our guys were like, absolutely we can. So they immediately ran up to the coach's office, patched the cable in to the server room, ran it through the coach's office, dropped it down because it was in a big gym, ran the cable over, and got their little portable box that they use to do their satellite things, and said, we'll plug this in. And they said, no, don't plug it in because we don't want it to break, and then we'll be in trouble. And our guys were like, well, you're kind of in trouble right now. But, so 15 minutes. And they say, we got to do something, so plug it in. Go ahead and plug it in. Be careful. So our guy plugs it in, and nothing happens. No lights come on, no green things. Now the ABC guys who were, and they were not arrogant or cocky. I don't want to misrepresent them, but they were confident. And they were a little dismissive. They're not feeling so confident right now. And so what our guy said was, again, we still don't know anything about it. These are just our technician guys. And they said, you need to reboot it. Turn it off, turn it back on. And they said, absolutely not. We can't do that. It'll never come back up, and then we won't be able to do the live shot. And our guys were like, okay. 5 minutes. New York's kind of in a panic now. And the local guys are beside themselves. They're like, we don't know what to do. So our guy got on the phone and said to New York, look, let us reboot it. I know how to do this. It's going to work. It'll be good. Let's do it. And they hemmed and hawed for 2 more minutes. Got within 3 minutes. And again, think about this. I mean, there's people running around and a lot of pressure. So finally New York said, fine, do it. If it doesn't work, we'll do something else. We'll do some remote, and we'll try and get it on a package later. But it wouldn't have been live from New York. Plugs it in, configures it, boom, comes up. Works. There was great joy in Mudville, I can assure you. Yeah, people were excited. So it came up, and the result of that now is what you just saw, but a lot of things you haven't seen, and that we still don't know what's happening with that. That all happened because of a culture. They weren't told what to do. They weren't guided. There was no 1, 2, 3, follow these steps, and you'll please our customer, and we'll make this work. But it was a culture. And so that's really what I want to talk to you about today, what we've done as a company, what our journey's been, and how that culture enabled what you saw to happen. So before I do that, though, I would like to read something that Ben wrote on his CaringBridge journal in August of 2016, so less than a month before he died. Now, I told you that the original video was done on the 7th. Good Morning America was on the 13th. Ben passed on the 16th, just 3 days later. This is what he wrote a couple of weeks before. God has anchored my soul to the firm hope I have in Jesus, and I'm praying for more days. Not selfishly, though. The truth is, these days are pretty tough. And they were. But I thank God each morning for another day of seeing him in me and showing him to others. I ask for more days to give him glory here on earth and to show Jesus as best I can to you. He's still doing that. He did it this morning. You saw him. You saw his daughter say, we actually weren't serenading him. We were worshiping with him because worship and God and Jesus are so important to him. And you heard Nate Morrow talk about how Ben loved. He loved like Jesus. He loved lavishly. Ben's prayer was answered in a way largely because of a culture. Because of a culture. So what I'd like to do this morning, I'd like to share with you 4 keys to the development of our culture that over the time have enabled us to seize this opportunity, because this opportunity came quickly. And had we not been able to take care of it then, Ben wouldn't have been around much longer. And honestly, what I would tell you is that video that of him singing and worshiping that went viral and Tim McGraw was involved with and all that, if you had only seen that, that would have been special. That would have had value. It would have been a feel-good story. It would have been great. But because that was then presented in the way that it was and that Jesus was talked about, there is kingdom impact and ministry impact and things far surpassing that. So, 4 keys to development of our specific culture. First of all, we build it intentionally. We build it intentionally. Now, when I first did these slides, I said we built it intentionally, as if it was a process that you kind of went through and then you were done. And then I realized as I got through, it's like, no, we're never done. We're always building a culture. We're always growing. We're always trying to respond. Because again, we're all here this weekend to build great businesses for a greater purpose. And if we are going to build a company that allows us and lead a company that allows us to achieve that greatest purpose to the maximal impact, then we've got to build a culture, because without a great team and great culture, we simply can't operate at the level that we want to, maximally. So we build it intentionally. Well, how did we do that? We started with purpose and vision. You have to start with purpose and vision, because you can have the greatest strategy in the world, but if you don't know why you're doing it or where you're going, what are you going to accomplish? So we started with purpose and vision. The thing that we've seen in our field, and again, our field in IT services, what we do every day, it changes all the time. There's lots of opportunity. There's lots of growth. People can work a lot of different places. We've had almost no turnover. The first person that we ever hired 16 years ago, Justin Smith, is still with us in Houston. The next guy we hired in Houston 14 years ago is still there. Mark Pellicor is still there. Doran Woods is still there years later. Same thing in Houston. The first 3 guys we hired in Nashville are still here. Why? Because they connect with a purpose and vision. Because we all want that. I mean, we most assuredly right now, today, as we sit here, are spending our lives. What are we getting for them? And God has put eternity in the heart of every man and woman. And we all yearn when we go to work and we exercise the gifts that He's given us, we want to know that we're getting something back that's contributing more than just a pay raise, than just a promotion. We all want to work desperately for something that we think is meaningful and makes a difference above and beyond the job. So we started with purpose and then our vision. Here's our purpose. We sell IT services. That is not our purpose. That is not our why. That's not why we're here. We exist to change lives by serving those who serve. There are a lot of issues and a lot of problems in the world. There's people that don't have homes. There's people that don't have anything to eat or drink. There's little girls that are getting sex trafficked all over the world. There's 147 million little people, children that don't have a home. They're orphans. There's drug abuse. There's marital issues. There's all kinds of problems in the world. And our heart as believers wants to fix those. I want to fix them. Our company wants to fix them. But we can't fix all those problems by ourselves. So we stand in the power of Christ, but we serve those who serve, because there are people all day, every day, that's all they're focused on, is solving other people's issues, other people's problems. So as a company, we're about changing lives. How do we do that? By serving those who serve. It's a leverage play for us. And every single person in our company who's there will tell you, hey, why are you here? Changing lives by serving those who serve. They know it. But what's more than that, they believe it. 15. What's our vision? Over the next 15 years, we'll have the beneficial impact on 1 billion people through the people that we serve. And we will most assuredly do that. We believe that's from the Lord. And He's given us a strategy for that and a plan for that. And so we know why. So in building our culture, everyone's really clear on why we're doing it and where we're going. So every decision we make, every person we hire, every client that we take, every proposal that we write, we're thinking, is this going to change lives by serving those who serve? Is this going to serve them well? Is this going to contribute to one of those billion people? So we build it intentionally. We started with purpose and vision, and then we engaged our team in an active process of clarifying whatever our values already were. And again, I'm going to move through some of this fairly quickly. But from a process standpoint, we didn't say, hey, what are our values? One of the things we did, we got everyone in our company, so in Houston and in Nashville and in Dallas, and we asked them a simple question. When people ask you, hey, what do you do at Enable? What's that about? How do you describe that? Who are we? What are we about? And we asked the second question, like, when you're thinking about working there and you're proud and you enjoy working there, what are the things that stand out to you that say, hey, I work here and this is different? So we went through that process. Everyone sent in short statements and phrases about what they thought that meant. We put them all up on Post-it notes, and while we were doing some construction on a building that we were moving into, we had a special lunch where we came, and we just started sticking those all on the wall, and we began to group them. So as certain things would go with other groups, we would put those together. So that was the process of coming to some shared values. Okay, so we built it intentionally. We talk about it constantly in every way that we can. We use these words, and I'll share them with you here shortly. Values, common language, terms, descriptions, so that we actually do all agree on what we're talking about. It pays to be a broken record. And sometimes you think you've communicated, and you haven't. Years ago, I was getting ready to go speak to a group just of men, and we were talking about marriage and commitment and staying in there, and when it's hard, don't bail, and those kinds of things, because I think we need to do that. And we're called to do that as believers, and unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. So anyway, from a very early age, one of my daughters came to me and said, hey, what's divorce? And she was young. And we addressed that with her, and she got very scared and asked, are you ever going to divorce mommy? And I said, no, I'm not, never will. And so I showed her my ring, and I said, if you're ever concerned about that or you hear something at school, you just look at my ring, and what that means to you is I love your mother and I'll never leave her, ever. That's my commitment. So she said, okay, cool. Well, then we had another daughter, and then we had a son, and we just had some version of this with all of them. Anyway, I was going to talk to this group. I told Laurie, I'm going to tell the guys, hey, this is what I do, and I'm sure our kids could come up, and if I said, hey, what's this ring for? They would say exactly what it was. And she goes, well, I don't know if they would or not. If you're going to go say that to those guys, you might want to test that. So I said, okay. Caroline comes in, oldest. Caroline, what does this ring mean? It means you love mom and you'll never leave her. That's why you're my favorite. Go. Second daughter comes in, and she's probably 8. She comes in, hey, Case, what does this ring mean? And she says, it means you love mom and you'll never leave her. I said, awesome, great. now the test. Because Coleman was like 5 or 6. Bring Coleman in. Coleman, what does the ring mean? He looked up and he said, it means you love mom and you'll never kill her. Yeah. He was there for the talk, but he didn't quite get it. So it pays to be a broken record. And so we talk about these things all the time. So what are ours? Okay, service, trust, relationships, excellence, teamwork, communication, humility. Those are ours. So as we got all those things together, those are the groups, and then we picked a word that said that. Is there color on that? Can you see stretch? Is that red from here? I can't see it very well. Hey, we got to remember these things, and they're hard to remember. And so we're committed to doing that. So I kind of had a Scrabble moment as I'm trying to remember what the values are specifically in the language we've used, and I just saw the word stretch. Well, our vision is to reach 1 billion people through the people that we serve in the next 15 years. That's kind of a stretch goal in a lot of ways. It's a God-sized goal, but that's one I know we can reach because he's in this. So stretch came there. I wish I could say that I was smart enough to figure that out on the front end. I wasn't, but it just came. The point is, we use these words all the time. So if you do something great, Dewey, if you go the extra mile and you help us out in our group, then we don't say, hey, good job. We say, that's an example of service. You went the extra mile. So what we then did was take these words, because we all put these, and these can't just be something we put on the wall, on a plaque, or on a stone out front. They have to be in the core of what we do and everything that we do. So what we did was we took each word, and then we attached to it a phrase that was behavioral. Hey, go do service. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. So we attached words to that. So we enthusiastically go the extra mile. Serve is a loaded word biblically. We all know that. It doesn't just mean show up and do a good job. It means regard others as more important than yourself. Don't merely look out for your own personal interests, but for the interest of others. It means greater love has no man. He lays down his life for his brother. Service is a loaded word. And we do that with enthusiasm. We go the extra mile. We don't just do the job. Think about the story I told you about Ben. Our guys went the extra mile. Oh, we got it. We're good. I don't think they are. So they went and they did belts and suspenders and another belt and another pair of suspenders just to help them make sure that they got taken care of. They went the extra mile. And again, no one told them what to do. Trust, we act in the best interest of others. Always. In this moment, right now, with this tough client situation, am I acting in their best interest or mine? See, always others. Relationships, we put people in relationships first. Recently, we had a situation where one of our newest persons that came on board, Stephanie, had just met the client for the first time, talked to him, found out that his wife was undergoing experimental cancer treatments in Miami and was having to fly back and forth. It was really difficult and very hard. And she came to me and said, hey, just really hurting for them. Can we do something for them? And I said, absolutely. What do you want to do? And she said, well, so she went and packed a go bag for them, and she put wipies in it and water and mints and all this stuff, but she put a blanket in. Because my mom had gone through chemo treatment in Vanderbilt years ago, and it was hard, and she was always cold. She was freezing because the hospital's cold, the stuff makes you cold. So anyway, she went to him and gave him this bag and said, hey, when you guys go, this bag's ready to go. You don't even need to worry about packing it. It's just ready. And tearful response that he came. No one told her to do that. We don't have a little marketing strategy that says, okay, this is what happens. She just put people in relationships first. Again, that's how it works. Excellence. We strive for excellence every day. Now, that's kind of generic. So we actually have to go the extra mile here and say, well, excellence for a salesperson means this. Excellence for a help desk person means this. This is what excellent looks like. Here's what it doesn't look like. Teamwork. We give our very best to the team. We don't have a star system. If you help the team, you're a star. If you're worried about your own thing and you put yourself first, it's not going to work. because the way we're set up to serve people and about change lives requires teamwork, the very best. Communication. We communicate directly, honestly, tactfully, and often. So we talk really clearly about what that means. If I've got an issue with Mike, I'm going to talk to Mike directly. I'm not going to talk to you about Mike because you can't solve it. Mike can, so directly to him. And I'm going to talk with him honestly, which doesn't just mean I don't lie. It means sometimes I have the hard conversations with him, okay? Tactfully. Some people want to come in and say, I got truth, brother, and I'm coming. And direct, Ben Ellis, during his whole ordeal, never lost his sense of humor. One of the stories he told us, like just a couple days before he died, was he'd gone to school, and this little kindergartner came, and Ben was kneeling, and this little kindergartner put his hand on his shoulder, and he said, "Dear God, please help this tired, sick old man get better." And Ben said, "Amen," and cracked up. Not sure that was the most tactful communication, but it was direct and honest anyway. And then often, we don't communicate clearly. Humility. We check our egos at the door. And I tell our folks all the time, and myself, hey, check your ego at the door. We'll do business together today, and then when you leave, guess what? It'll still be there. You can pick it up on your way out. It'll be fine. But while we're here, it's about team and it's about others. So that's the culture that we have put in place. Those are the principles that we've put in place. So we teach it. Now, if you think about everything that happened with Ben Ellis in that video, our guys show up, their guys say, "No, we're good, we're fine." Well, they weren't. And our guys could have said, "Hey, man, I was up till 10 o'clock. I was back here at 4:30. We tested this. We did all this other stuff. We've got it going for you." And you're like, "We're fine?" Okay. But he never did that. They checked their ego at the door. They waited, and they were there. And I could go through all of them, but I don't think we have the time to do it. But I think you can see that the way that they reacted with others, they communicated with New York and with each other back and forth. They were humble. They went the extra mile. They worked as a team. They got people involved, and not one manager told them to do any of it. They did it all themselves. So we teach it. I'm going to go through this quickly. We have themes. Not every quarter necessarily. Usually they're annual. So depending on what we're trying to accomplish, we were really about serving and going the extra mile at one point. And so there was a theme, run to the car. There's some of you from the Pacific Northwest. There's a big tire company up there that is known for when you pull on their lot, they sprint to the car. The first time that happens, I think you're probably kind of freaked out by that. But what they're saying is, we are here for you, we're on it, and we're going to take care of you. So we had run to the car. So we have different kind of themes like that. Again, what we're trying to do constantly, use the words, give the examples, teach, have themes, make the values concrete, those examples. And then we do awards. Years ago, we had a guy that went to a meeting in another state, big meeting, big project. Got there and realized he had worn tennis shoes on the airplane, didn't have any work shoes. And that's when it wasn't cool. I don't think it is still, but to wear tennis shoes with suits. So he's like, what am I going to do? I mean, this is a big presentation with a very corporate thing. So he was staying at a hotel. He went into the hotel bar. There was a bar there, and people were watching, and he just started looking around. He said, "Hey, man, what size are your shoes?" Guy said, 11. He goes, "I'm 11. I want to buy your shoes." And the guy's like, "Who are you, man?" Long story short, he bought his shoes for $60. They were nasty and they are ugly, but they were dress shoes. He bought them for $60. We brought them home. We bronzed them. We put them on a plaque, and we had the Golden Shoes Award for innovation. And so we did that for a while. Yeah. Still not down with somebody's shoes and you wore, whatever. I have to move on. So we build it intentionally, we talk about it, we teach it, and we fight for it. We fight for it. You can't build this one time. Because every time you bring a new person into your company, every time you have a life event, every time you have a difficult client situation, anytime anything changes, this gets tested. So if we are going to be a culture that allows us to seize the moment and to operate at the level where lives are changed and things happen, we have got to fight for this culture all the time. So don't let the small things slide. Be relentless. Last week, as I was preparing for this, I had my door open and I was sitting there and they were having a meeting in the office right next to me. 4 of our key people that were it was a tough client situation. And the client was probably being a little more demanding on some points, maybe even unreasonable on some things that than they should have. But as I was trying to write, I was listening, and I just heard the tone shift just a little. They were frustrated. And I heard it shift to the point where I thought, this is not going the right way. Because we go the extra mile to serve those who serve. We put their interests before our own, right? It's not about us, it's about them. So I walked in, I said, hey guys, it sounds like y'all have a kind of a thorny problem you're working through here. I know the client, I get it. I'm gonna let y'all solve it. But I just wanted to remind you that, we check our egos at the door here, and, we go the extra mile to serve people. So we're going to go further than a lot of people will go in dealing with this. That's all I had to say. I just want to let y'all know. I know you're going to get this fixed. And I just walked out the door. And 2 or 3 of them came up later and said, hey, thanks. Because we were getting to a bad place. And so we have to be relentless. And letting the small things slide gets you to a place where you don't want to be. We good? Okay. Well, what can we do to guarantee that this won't work? The people in this building run great businesses, and you're trying to get them greater for a greater purpose. So it's important that we do this well. It matters. There's meaning in what we do. We got to do it well. But there's something we can do pretty much to guarantee that it won't work. It's a famous football player in Nashville. My son. This is probably the second week he played football. Let me tell you about the first day he played football, tackle football. Now, he's got 2 older sisters, so he didn't have older brothers to beat on him and make him tough and do all this stuff. I really didn't know how he was going to handle football, really didn't. But I talked it up, and I was positive, it's all good. So we go out to Grassland, and they warm up for maybe 30 seconds, and then we had this ex-military hoorah kind of guy that was their coach. So he lines them up in a modified Oklahoma drill. So you got one set of guys on this side and one set of guys on this side. He's got a football, he doesn't. 10 yards apart, run, and just blast each other. Because he was going to find out who the men and the boys were. By the way, they were all boys at that point, but that's an aside. So my son Coleman comes in line, first time I've ever seen him in contact. And on the other side is a kid named Mitch. Mitch. By the way, Mitch plays football at Ohio State now. So he's a year older than Coleman. He's got double stripes on his helmet. And those are the guys they won't let carry the football in real games because they'll hurt people. So we got Coleman with 2 sisters and Mitch, who's a Buckeye now. Okay. You know where this is going. So they blow the whistle, and Mitch, he's got the football, and he's running full speed, and Coleman runs up to tackle him, and Mitch hits him right in the chest. Boom! Legs up, plant! And Coleman gets up, and I thought, he's done. He's quitting. He'll never play football again. And he limps back to the line, and I'm looking at the coach, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, we're good. So I get in the other line. Coleman gets the football this time, and I said, come on, buddy. And so he runs straight up again. Mitch comes in, boom, bang, same thing. I thought, oh my. So I looked at the coach, and he goes, what do you want me to do? And I said, so I went over to Coleman, and I said, look, Coleman, you got to get lower. he's drilling you in the chest. You have to get lower. If you get lower, you're going to be fine. And listen, if you hit him as hard as you can with everything you can, it won't hurt. You'll be fine, I promise. Go for it. They line up, they go, Coleman gets low, Mitch gets low, boom, they both go back. And Mitch gets up with his head. And then I looked at the coach and I went, waiting on that one. So we're walking off at the end of this practice. And it's still intense after that. And I really didn't know if he's going to want to play. I mean, I really didn't. I thought he would quit. So as we're walking, I'm going, hey, bud, how was that? And he goes, I thought Mitch was going to kill me. And I said, oh, no, you did great, man. I'm really proud of you. And he goes, oh, Dad, remember that thing you told me when you told me if I hit him as hard as I can and I just blast him that it won't hurt? And I went, yeah. And he goes, it's not true. So the one way that we can mess this up in culture is we can talk about it and we can stick it on the wall, but if it's not true in practice, if we don't really live it, our people will know it. And they'll give you a look a lot like that, I think. It will be disheartening. It'll be discouraging because, listen, everyone wants to live for something. Everyone wants to have something that's worth giving their life for. And that's our role. That's our job, to set the vision. And I don't know what yours is. We're going to change lives by serving those who serve. We're going to reach 1 billion people through the people we serve by God's grace. We're going to do that. And our context is IT services. I don't know what that is for you, but I can promise you every single person in your organization is begging for you to lead and give me a vision and a purpose that I can give everything to. And then when we talk about it, don't just put the words on the wall. Make it be true. I want it to be true. So, what impact can intentional culture really have? I want to read you a follow-up thing from Ben Ellis that he wrote on his Caring Bridge just days after this happened. The video went viral on the 7th. He wrote this, I think, on the 10th or 11th, shortly before they did the Good Morning America thing. So he was responding to the fact that at that point, it had already been seen 32 million times in about 3 days. He said, remember my prayer request from my post on August 20th? And remember that was for more days to show people a picture of the love that Jesus has through his living and dying. Ben says, this is far beyond our wildest, biggest dreams. I've never felt so weak, but God is strong in me. More days, more glory to him, more people seeing Jesus, more people coming to know Jesus. What an amazing answer to our prayer. Culture matters. It matters. We couldn't control that people had dreams about this. We couldn't control somebody shooting a video and sending it to Tim McCraw. We couldn't control that it went viral, but what we could control was showing up and making sure that it worked. And now 100 million people have seen it. We're talking about 1 billion. I can't get my mind around 100 million or 1 billion. It's hard. It's hard to do that. I believe God for it, but you know what I can do? I can connect with one. I can get my mind around one. I want to introduce you to a little girl. Her name is Xu Fong. She's a Chinese national. She was born about 2 weeks prematurely. After a week of being on the planet, she was left in a field, in a basket, across from a police station. She was immediately taken and put in an orphanage. Now, if you're a female in China, and she has a couple little medical things, if you're a female in China with some medical issues, you don't have a great plan. That's not a great destiny and hope for you. Because what will be absolutely sure is you will fight for attention. You will fight for food. You will fight for your very existence. No family. No mommy, no daddy, no brothers, no sisters, taken care of by communist state workers who have to be there. No school, no playtime, just there. Xu Feng. That's how she started her life. But that's not how her life is now. It's not even what her name is. Her name is Kaylin Joy. And she was adopted by a family who worked with some people who all day, every day, served the 147 million children just like her. They connected families, they got grants for them, they gave them information, they helped them in the adoption process. She didn't stay in China. Had she stayed in China, this is her destiny. If you don't get adopted by the time you're 2 or 3, maybe, the chances of being adopted go through the floor. No family, no hope, no education, no nothing. When you get to be 16, 17, they put you out on the street. And what is a little girl in that situation going to do? Hooking, drugs, die before you're 20. That's not hyperbole. That's the path. But that's not her path. She came to the United States. In fact, when she got there, that's what awaited her at the Nashville airport. Her life's different. Her path's different. Look at that face. See the first one? Vacant, scared, confused, 1,000-yard stare. For heaven's sake, she's a cheerleader now. Look at her. She has a mommy. She has a brother. She's got 2 sisters. She has a dad. Her life will never be the same, ever. And who knows what God is going to do with this magnificent young girl. But there's a reason why she's here. Because there's organizations that have a passion for a greater purpose. And they work hard to be great at what they do. And some of them work with companies like ours that say, hey, we'll help you. We want to join in you with that. And here's what I know. When we build a culture intentionally, when we teach it, when we talk about it, when we do everything we can to get people on board, and when we fight for it, standing in the power of Christ, fighting for that, building that with a great purpose in mind, we don't just build great companies, we change people's lives. Things just like that. We got a lot to learn this weekend. Build your culture. Be intentional. Talk about it. Teach it. And fight for it. Because if you do, and we do, the world will never be the same. Thank you.